What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, this Fox Sports executive Charlie Dixon in this latest scandal involving Fox Sports, Skip Bayless, uh, Joy Taylor, Emmanuel Ocho. You may have heard me refer to him as Dennis the Menace because he looks like the comic strip, the grown-up version of the comic strip character from the Hank Ketchum series. So that reminded me of a video that I never got a chance to do, and that's talking about actor Jay North. Now, growing up as a kid in the early '90s, watching Nick at Night, I remember the Dennis the Menace TV show. Now, the TV show originally aired on CBS between 1959 and 1963. And Jay North, who was, I believe, about 7 or 8 years old when he first started portraying Dennis the Menace, portrayed him during that 4-year run. And although, on in front of the cameras, Jay North seemed like a jovial, mischievous, but good-natured kid, behind the scenes, Jay North was going through absolute hell. You may notice that even though I have a love for theatrics, a love for acting, you may always hear me, I didn't invent this term, but you may have heard me always refer to Hollywood as Hollyweird. And there's a reason behind that, because at its core, Hollyweird is evil. It's evil. There's a lot of dark secrets that Hollyweird still keeps to this very day. But we all pretty much know how evil that system truly can be. Yes, some of the movies they create have been gold, but it has destroyed a lot of lives, destroyed a lot of people. And to me, in Hollyweird, some of the most successful actors, although on the surface appearing to be very successful and very happy, they have been destroyed as human beings. Honestly, some of the most successful actors are generally soulless sociopaths, or they're some of the strongest people that you will ever encounter. Um, Regular people, or people who aren't built with that extra strength, that extra fortification of steel that can help them endure some of the worst um, mental traumas that can occur of being in that world, they get out of Hollywood. Child actors who don't have the mental or emotional development to deal with these things fare even worse. And, there have been child actors who didn't even make it into middle age life, like Anissa Jones and Rusty Hammer. Anissa Jones was a child actor. I think the show she was on was, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was A Family Affair. Rusty Hammer was on Make Room for Daddy. They both unalived themselves at young ages. Jay North, although he didn't quite go that route, although he was reportedly getting close to that route, he went through absolute hell on the set of Dennis the Menace. Um, First of all, part of the pressure was the fact that the show revolved around him. And because of that, he was almost in every scene. And that's a lot of pressure for a kid to be in almost every scene. Um, he was probably featured even more per episode than even Steve Urkel was. And Steve Urkel, aka Jaleel White, would tell you about the pressure of being on that show. But for what I could tell, for the most part, Jaleel White, although he probably had his stressors being on that show as well, at least he had a support system. Jay North was literally terrorized by his guardians. Now, his mother uh, was not on set. It was actually, if I'm not mistaken, it was his aunt and uncle, and they physically abused him. They verbally abused him. Um, they terrorized him. If ever he made a mistake, as far as his lines, he said in an interview with Katie Couric some years ago that his aunt would take him offset nearby, somewhere in the cut or whatever, maybe in his, dressing room, whatever, and she would beat the hell out of him, beat him for forgetting lines. We're talking about a kid now. You're gonna forget lines. She would verbally abuse him. The uncle, I believe, would verbally abuse him, and they threatened him. They threatened him like if he would ever tell his mother that they were doing this to him, they would do something to him. Okay. So this is a kid, 8, 9, 10 years old, that was going through absolute mental trauma, torture on the set of a show where he's playing this fun-loving, effervescent, troublesome, but not mean-intentioned kid. He said the only time that his happiness ever showed was when he was acting, and that when the cameras are off, he was miserable. And it wasn't just his guardians. He said that the people that worked on, not the actors that he worked with, not the actor that played his mother or um, his father or Mr. Wilson. I guess both Mr. Wilsons. They were fine. He said they were great They were great people, though they could tell that he was troubled. He said the people that were on the set were very abusive to him, to the point where um, he was drawing pictures of him as when I say him, I mean uh, what he wanted to do to some of these people. He was literally drawing pictures of him unaliving people or these people being tortured. This was the psychological pain and trauma that he was undergoing. By the end of the show, he was about 13 years old, 12, 13 years old, beginning to outgrow the character. I guess that began to show. The ratings dropped, and mercifully for him, the show was canceled. And afterwards, his career pretty much floundered. The only other notable thing I can remember that he did was, you might remember, those of you who are older like me, I remember on USA Network some years ago, the Pebbles and Bam Bam cartoon show. Now, originally aired on CBS in the early 70s. And this was a cartoon that featured Pebbles and Bam Bam as teenagers. Jay North, who at that time was about 20, was actually the voice of Bam Bam in that cartoon. But afterwards, pretty much his career faltered, and his life kind of spiraled out of control. And he was heading toward a pretty bad place. It wasn't until the unfortunate situation involving Rusty Hammer, who probably went through an even worse ordeal than Jay North. He unalived himself. I think it was January 1990. And it was Paul Peterson. Now, Paul Peterson was a child actor. I think he was on the Donna Reed show. And it was Paul Peterson that relayed to Jay North that Jay Hammer had just unalived himself. And I think he told him that as a cautionary, first of all, as a scare, not to, how can I put this? He told Jay that, I think, to, first of all, relay this terrible, tragic news, but to also tell him that you may potentially be heading down this path. And that was a turning point in Jay North's life. He sought professional help afterwards, and he began to turn his life around. The anger which had been fermenting at him for so many years began to ebb. He began to a degree, come to terms with what happened to him while he was on the set of that show and the way that Hollyweird had treated him. And while he never truly uh, went back to Hollyweird, he hates the system. He hates Hollyweird. He thinks they treat child actors abominably. Um, he did to a certain degree over the years, although he has kept a very low profile. He began to embrace the fans of the show, although he said that it wasn't until maybe the last few decades, well, I'll say 20 years or so, they could even bother to watch the shows. He said watching episodes of Dennis the Menace made him physically sick. And up until recently, Jay North is now in his early 70s. And I don't know how he is right now, but I guess he's okay. Hope he's in great health. But I remember in an interview that he did, he advised that kids pretty much stay out of Hollywood because it probably will do damage to you and destroy you. I mean, when you look at the history of it, child actors don't fare very well. They don't fare very well at all. Some of them, you know what I'm saying, on the surface seem happy, but we've heard of the horrors that happened to Shirley Temple. By that I mean, although she lived a very productive life, she was bigger than Hollyweird. She wanted to become an ambassador, I think to was it certain was it Africa? I forgot her exact title, but she became a humanitarian. She was a really great person. But she talked about in an interview with Larry King how some of those weird ass Hollyweird producers and executives tried to grape her when she was just 12 years old. They said that not only did they attempt to grape her, but her mother actually had something happen to her at one point in time. You've heard about the physical abuse that happens and the abuse as well with the zesty abuse that happened to Corey Haim, Corey Feldman. Um, you know, how many times some of these child actors, not just the physical violence, but how the parents take advantage of them. Jackie Coogan, I think it was his name, Jackie Coogan, who wound up playing Uncle Fester in the 1960s sitcom. Uh, I'm not mixing up with somebody. I might be mixing Jackie Coogan up with somebody else. Uh, I might be mixing them up with somebody, but I think I have the right kid. But anyway, one of them is either Jackie Coogan or Jackie Cooper. I think both of them were child actors. But anyway, one of them was robbed by the parents. Basically, he made the equivalency of millions of dollars in the early 1920s. He was a big child actor, and his parents robbed him, and that's why they eventually passed these laws to help protect kids as far as having mandated that they have a percentage of the money that they earn as children to be put into uh, an account so that they can have some funds to their money by the time they turn 18 years old. So it's you have that to deal with the psychological trauma, the physical trauma, the the unthinkable things that happen to these kids. This happens a lot, unfortunately. So like I said, Hollyweird is not a great place in general, but children really fare horribly. And even if you don't have that happen to you, it's just not a natural environment for children. Period. You have kids; they're not really around others their own age for much. Oftentimes, it takeaways from their studies as far as being a child, and if things don't work out, from an academic standpoint, you're at a detriment. You don't really have much to say to rely on, I should say, if things don't work out for you. It's horrible. You know, I mean, look, there are some child actors that have transitioned into being stars. Leonardo DiCaprio is one of them. But for the most part, it doesn't work out very well. Drew Barrymore is another one that actually transitioned from being a child actor to an adult, although I've heard that things happen to Drew Barrymore. So, wherever you are, Jay North, I hope you're doing well. And I'm glad you got over the darkness. So, tell me what you guys think.